Welcome to Beyond the Margins. I'm your host, Jason, and today we've got my friend Blaize with us. Blaize, we've had a chance to correspond a little bit, but there's so much more I want to know about you. Would you share a little bit about yourself with me and our audience?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jason. It's such a privilege to be here. My name is Blaize. I use they, them pronouns primarily, and I'm the founder of Weeping Willow Wellness, where I offer my signature program, The Whole Body Communicator, a somatic approach to healing communication and trauma. I also offer clothing optional yoga, Reiki, body work, breath work, all kinds of different practices through that umbrella company. And I'm also an artist, multidisciplinary artist, single parent, foster animal enthusiast.
Well, there's so much. You're so busy. I know when I originally looked at your LinkedIn profile, I mean, you are so busy. You've got the wellness center. I did not know you were a single parent. How old is your child?
I have a 7-year-old.
Oh, I love that age. So I was looking at your, I'm going to say it wrong again. What's the name of your wellness center?
I have Weeping Willow Wellness, and then I also write the Substack. Is that what you were about to say?
No, I wanted to talk about the Weeping Willow Wellness. That was interesting to me. So can you explain to us what the somatic, you said somatic body?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm completely messing that up.
Somatics are very popular in the wellness community, but those maybe who haven't heard of it, it's totally new. A lot of people are like, somatics, what is that? And then those of us who are in on it, it's like we're deep diving into all the different versions of somatics there are, and hundreds of different practices and historic lineages and all of this stuff. But basically, to make it simple, soma is the Greek root word for body. So somatic practices are physical practices that we use to heal trauma, to shift our experience in our bodies and our minds. It's basically a different approach to therapeutics than some of the older models, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy, narrative therapy, etc.
Okay, so somebody who's gone through, or everybody's gone through something, but somebody who's struggling with the trauma that they've gone through could find service at a wellness center like yours to help move through that.
Exactly. And we would use somatic practices, different physical tools to actually shift the way that their body is responding to their traumatic triggers, as opposed to just talking about it and reworking their story and how they're approaching it mentally. We actually change the physiology, the physical response.
That's really interesting. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that, but before I do that, to my students, I do know what soma means. We talk about somatic cells. I just had this terrible image of one of them watching this going, Mr. Richland, you don't know what that means. I know.
Okay.
I know.
You're asking for everyone else.
So I get the idea. I get what you're telling me. I also noticed that you had Reiki listed on the website. I am familiar with Reiki as well.
Yeah.
But the somatic one, I'm not as familiar with that as a therapy. So as can you give me an example of what kind of manipulation you're doing?
Yeah. So it really, really depends. Most of my clients right now are actually on Zoom. So I'm instructing them on practices that they can actually do themselves at home, which is really useful because a lot of us, have trauma and have triggers that come up, and we need practices that we can do in the moment ourselves. Some somatic practitioners do work more physically, like physical manipulation with body work. And I do some of that for certain clients, especially some of my clients that I already have like a body work connection with. I will work in somatic practices. So there's like a million different ways to approach somatics. One of my teachers kind of paints it as somatics is a practice of observing or of listening. And so it's basically just shifting your entire approach from, I'm going to top down this process. I'm going to think my way through the problem and then like figure it out. We're actually just reversing it, and we're sensing into the body first and figuring out, okay, what does the body need? So for example, I'll use something you were telling me earlier, if that's okay, before we started the podcast. You were telling me how you get really, really upset about some of this activism work that you really are so passionate about, and how you took a long break in your life. Like you were totally an activist when you were younger, and then you were focused on kids, and now you're getting more upset again about different things that are happening and more impassioned about the work you want to do. A lot of that might be the story you're telling yourself in your head, but what you might be missing is how your soma, how your body is actually showing up for the work you want to do. So a somatic approach would be listening first to what your body needs to be supported to be able to do the work you want to do. I'll just make up a hypothetical. For example, if you were an activist who really wanted to attend rallies, but you really got overstimulated every time you're in a crowd of people because of some traumatic thing that happened when you were in a crowd when you were a kid, or you just have a lot of sensory stuff around crowds. We would be able to actually take physical practices to learn how to soothe your body in crowds first. So then you would be able to go and do the activism work that you want to do. So we all have goals, right? We all have things that we want to accomplish, things that we want to change about ourselves, things we want to do. And oftentimes, at least with every client I've worked with, the key to being able to accomplish those goals is in our body first. So we might apply things like breathing techniques. We might apply tapping certain meridian points in the body, like right here at the chest, or along the edges of the eyes, or the corners of the eyebrows. We might apply some meditation techniques where we learn to notice, okay, where am I holding tension in my body? And I squeeze that tension even more, leaning into my body wants to clench. Okay, I'm going to clench all the way and then release. Oh, what does that bring? What do we notice? And then you can go and take all these tools out into the world to be able to change the way you're moving through the world and change the way you're able to approach the work you want to do, whether that's in a relationship, in activism in your case, or art, or anything really.
That was so that was more amazing of an answer than I expected. I expected something interesting, but part of my neurodivergence, I am very good in front of a crowd. I can stand up there with nothing written down and give a speech, no problem.
Amazing.
I cannot be in a crowd.
You can't be down in it.
Completely panic. No.
Yeah.
No, there was a comedian, I'll leave his name out of it because I'm going to steal his joke, but there was a comedian who said that the number one fear of people in America is speaking in front of a crowd. Number two is death. So they would rather be in the box than speaking over the box.
Right.
And I thought, that's so strange to me because I love to speak.
Right.
But the technique would be interesting. We may have to come visit you because that would be so helpful, because I've missed out on so many things in life because I will panic in a crowd. I will stay on the fringe if I can.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be, now I'm interested. Now I might have to come visit you and get some of this done and see how it works.
Yeah. I mean,
come back and report.
Work online too. Most of my clients are on Zoom. Definitely.
Yeah.
You can have a free session.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll reach out.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I will take a little tangent here. I wasn't planning on doing this. I'm also a really passionate raver. I'm really into the rave scene, the electronic music scene. And I got into this many years ago when I moved to California. My brothers were really into it, and it became a way that we were bonding as siblings. And I didn't used to be into that style of music, and was not super into being in crowds either. I think I probably am more on the end of your side of things, where I would rather be speaking in front of people than be down in a crowd, like with people all up in my personal space. I lived in New York City many years ago, And I was pretty much having panic attacks all the time because it was
I can
way too much
imagine.
for my nervous system. I was like constantly in overdrive. Um, but yeah, basically I found raving and I found somatics around the same time. And
Mm,
it was such an incredible part of my personal journey, realizing like, wow, everything that's happening while I'm at the rave is actually me reprogramming my response and growing like new synapses in my brain, associating
right.
pleasure with being in a crowd, associating, the euphoria of these types of music, the excitement that these types of music bring, and the lights and the lasers and, the fun elements. And also, I don't know if you've been to rave events, but the crowd is very loving. It's all about plur, we call it peace, love, unity, and respect. And so, if you're having a moment in the crowd, like it's very likely that someone's going to check on you and see if you're okay. And people give
That's
each other
cool.
little presents and little bracelets. And a lot of people are very physically open to like sharing a really sweet hug and supporting each other with that kind of contact. It's not everyone, of course. Every crowd, there's going to be some assholes, but the
Always.
general vibe is like so supportive. And so it's very different than like going to a rally or something where a lot of times it can be much more intense. Um, and so, yeah, it was like actually a huge part of my own healing journey and my own somatic reprogramming, that I was learning these different techniques of understanding my body more, listening to my body more, connecting with my breath more, resourcing with my body, different somatic experiencing techniques, and then bringing those into the rave environment and learning a whole new way of being. It was like really cool timing for my own journey.
No, that's totally cool. I love that because it was the perfect conditions for you to be learning something that could help you do something that you were starting to get into.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, because I used
I
to
want
get
to.
way more anxious and I'd be with my brothers and they'd be like, all right, well, like, do you want to go or what? And I was like, well, no, I want to hang out with you guys, but like, this is way too much. And then I started learning all these things and yeah, it's really cool.
That is very cool. I love that you share that. I love that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
I want to flip a little bit here. I want to take us down a little bit of a different road. Of course, now I can't remember if I said it at the beginning of the show or not. I know I talked to you about it, but um, this whole thing started because of restorative justice. And I know that you had been a substitute teacher in, I think it was the LA County School District.
Hmm.
So you saw things that I see. I have some teachers that come on the show, and I always like to talk about the same things with them because we've all had this experience together. One of the things that got me interested in all of this was finding out about white supremacy culture. And when I first found out about it, I was applying for Teach for America. I tell this story pretty frequently, so I'm sure my viewers have heard it before, but I'll tell it again anyway. Um, I didn't think they were going to take me because I didn't understand what white supremacy culture was, and I thought this was going to shut it down. So when they took me, I was shocked, and I was like, okay. And I actually told them, I'm like, I didn't think that you would take me. And they said, no, we need more people like you because in the schools the kids see a lot of white people, but they don't see a lot of white men or white older men who actually care about them. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I can do that. So it got me in the door. And as I learned more and more about the high school prison pipeline and white supremacy culture, and now I'm learning more about patriarchy and family court systems too, but that's a completely different story. I started to see it. I looked back at a school I was at previously, and the majority of that school administration and teachers were BIPOC.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it, they're clearly showing the same actions that were developed in this white supremacy culture. They're still punishing the BIPOC kids at a harsher rate than non-BIPOC kids.
Hmm.
And I thought, that's now I understand that this isn't a person issue. This is a system issue. This
Right.
is something that started before any of us were born, but we need to fix it, right? We need to tear down the white supremacy culture. So I don't believe it's just teachers that are responsible for it. It's just easier to ask them this question because they know what I'm talking about. What are you doing to tear down white supremacy culture?
That is a big question. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of approaching it in multiple ways. Have you read the book My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem? Okay, it's a really, really good one. And it was the first one I read that kind of opened my eyes to the difference between like just not being a racist and being actively anti-racist. I think how I grew up, like I wasn't really aware of things for a long time also because it just wasn't in front of me. I grew up in very rural Vermont, mostly white community, and didn't really have to confront a lot of this until, into my 20s. And then, even more recently, in more and more intense ways. But the way Resmaa writes about it just encourages us all to actually confront what it is to not only just like not be overtly racist, but what it is to be anti-racist. And so the first part of that, I think, is our personal work, which for me is building those somatic tools. Resmaa paints a lot of amazing narratives about how we can shift what's happening in our soma. So like, environments where you might not realize you're having like an inadvertently racist reaction, you're able to actually notice, okay, why did I just have that thought? And then what's going on in my body? Where is there like a knee-jerk tension reaction in my body because of like an entire lifetime of social programming that is not actually what's happening right here, right now. We think of like just, like racial assumptions that you might make. It's based in your body, and then it's based in your programmed memories. And so for me, the first part of that work is unlearning that and creating more space in my body. So like, if I have like a fear response to a situation where I really don't need to, how do I nurture that in my body with my somatic tools? How do I reteach my body, what experiences are, appropriate to listen to that, gut instinct of spidey sense. We think of like the spidey sense or the gut feeling, your gut brain. The gut brain is telling me like something's off here and I should have my guard up. And which situations are me just having my guard up because like I'm uncomfortable because I'm in a room full of BIPOC people and I'm not used to that. Like I'm not used to being the other. And so how can I soothe my system and like relearn, what it feels like and how to resource myself. So learning my own tools, doing my own inner work. And then the other part I think is like rebalancing of justice or redistributing of resources. And so in the work that I do, I always have scholarship spots available, sliding scale available for those who are marginalized and need. It's not unlimited because I am a single parent and I'm also a marginalized individual and I need to run a business.
Right.
But I always do have at least some spots available for people who need a discount or a sliding scale rate or a scholarship.
That's so sweet. I love that you do that. I know that one of the other people that I've done an interview with, he started an organization called HealthLink, and their whole thing is to go out to marginalized communities where they don't have resources like readily available internet and help them get the health insurance resources that are available to them that they can't access because they don't have the resources. And I just thought that was so great. And it's similar to what you're talking about. You're using your business as an opportunity to help marginalized communities as well as everybody else. And that's what equity really is. Everybody keeps talking about equality, and I think we're off the mark. I think equity is more important because in equity, everybody has the same opportunity. Not everybody's given the same thing.
Mm.
And if you have true equity, we would see a difference as opposed to what we call equity right
Yeah.
now, which is some people have those opportunities,
Right.
But I love that you're doing that. I love that you're opening it up to make sure that everybody who needs you can get to you.
Thank you.
So, of course, I'm basing this off of your chosen pronouns, but as somebody that I am assuming as identifies as non-binary,
Correct.
how did you? Because I'm assuming it's different in Los Angeles than it is here. How were you accepted in these schools with that identity?
So it is actually inadvertently what got me fired from LUSD, but not really. Not really. That's kind of a joke. But basically,
Okay.
I didn't want to go by Miss Hall because I don't identify being called Miss. So I just went by Teacher Blaize. And I don't really strongly associate with my last name a whole lot either, for various reasons. And so I always just went by Teacher Blaize or just Blaize. And I also just really wanted the students to feel like I was accessible to them, and so I don't really relate to being called Miss or Mr. I did joke with them, if you really got to call me something, you call me sir, because I do like a good yes sir every now and then. If we're really trying to lay down the law. But yeah, so unfortunately, because Blaize is such a unique name, that is eventually how some middle schoolers found my Instagram accounts.
Oh no!
Created a whole bunch of drama, so that was the end of that. But yeah, it was fine. Definitely there were some other teachers who thought it was strange, and it was like a daily chore to kind of be like, no, please don't call me Miss. Oh, I don't identify as Miss. Oh, thank you. That doesn't work. It's kind of like, it's a lot to try to help people, again, unlearn a whole binary system. But I don't mind. And every now and then, it was honestly worth it. Every now and then there was a kid who, I would say, I don't go by Miss, I don't go by ma'am, it's just Blaize. Here's my pronouns on the board, they're they, them. And I'd see some kid's face just light up because, they felt recognized or they felt an allyship, and that's worth it to me.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So I'll tell you two incidents I've had at this school district, which were amazing, and they are they're so inclusive in what I've experienced at the school district. We have several non-binary teachers that go by mix, and so that was hard for me at first because I didn't understand. These were not things when I was a kid. These were not words we used when I was a kid.
They were barely things when I was a kid.
Well, so when I started this journey, it was hard because I'd be trying to learn. And what I found out was that a lot of people come in like that and then use what they learn to hurt people. I didn't know that. So I start to get very emotional when I talk about this stuff because it hurts me so deeply that people are hurting people the way they are. I got a couple of people to talk to me and help me learn things. And when I first started learning non-binary, I really struggled with it because I'm like, I feel uncomfortable using it. And at first it was grammatical. That was all it was I just couldn't make it make sense grammatically, and I struggled with it. And then I thought about it, and when I used to talk to people, and this might be part of my neurodivergence, but when I used to talk to people about somebody that they didn't necessarily know, I would almost always refer to them as they, them. Because it just didn't matter what their gender was. You didn't know their name, and you didn't want to know. So
it's like,
why would their gender matter either?
If you see a phone left at a table somewhere at a restaurant, you obviously don't know whose phone it is. You go, oh, someone left their phone. It's only one person's phone. Well, we don't know, so we stay there. We've been
Well,
using
and
they them singularly since Shakespeare's time.
oh yes, yes, and that was the first part I had to accept. Once I accepted that I do that, and there's not actually a grammatical issue there,
Yeah.
then it just became that it was hard for me to remember. And at that point, I was like, well, okay, but that's not worth hurting somebody's feelings over. And
Mm.
so everybody that I've had on the podcast so far has been a blessing, including you. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I think we need to have more conversations, and we'll talk about that in just a minute after I sign off, though.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to share?
Just thank you so much for having me. And I'll let our listeners know where they can find me. My Instagram is Weeping Willow Wellness. You can also check out my website, weepingwillowwellness.com. I also write the Substack Artist of Everything. And I'm assuming maybe you have show notes you can link stuff in.
Yes,
But yeah, I would love
100%.
to
We'll
hear
put
from anyone listening to this. If you have questions or you want to book a call with me to explore your healing journey, yeah, I'm here.
we will definitely throw links up in the show description for you. We'll grab those from you later. You have been such a pleasure to talk to, Blaize. I'm really excited that we finally made it work.
Yeah.
That you're so close to where we are. That's fun for me too. And I really look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason.
You're so welcome. To my amazing fam followers and viewers, I want to thank you as always. If you like the show, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, follow us on Facebook at our Beyond the Margins business page so that you can see everything that's going on and get those early releases. And as always, we love you for who you are, not who the world wants you to be, and we'll do better.